After 10 years of marriage, you start to think you know every side of the person beside you. The laughter, the tempers, the soft silences that make a house feel like home. I thought I did too. But one evening proved me wrong. It wasn't during a fight or a deep confession. It happened in our own living room, on a night filled with laughter that didn't belong to me. Claire, my wife, had invited some of her co-workers over after their quarterly meeting. I didn't mind. I cooked, set the table, opened a few bottles of wine. Among them was her colleague, Emily, tall, confident, with that kind of sharpness that makes people pay attention. I'd met her before. She was funny and a little too perceptive for comfort. The night began easily. Work stories, playful teasing, the usual small talk that fills an evening. I sat nearby, smiling when it fit, genuinely laughing when I meant it. But somewhere around the second glass of wine, as they started a game of truth or dare, the tone shifted. Emily was dared to name her secret crush from the room. She gave a sly grin, glanced my way, and said, "Well, if Claire ever gets tired of her husband, I wouldn't mind taking him." Everyone burst out laughing, except me. Claire leaned forward, her eyes glinting, and shot back, "Oh, please, take him for a week. Maybe then he'll learn how to listen." The laughter doubled. It was supposed to be a joke, but her words, light, dismissive, hit harder than she knew. I smiled through it, pretending it didn't matter, but inside something splintered. Emily noticed first. Her laughter faded as she looked between us, uncertain. "Careful what you offer," she said, trying to smooth it over. But the moment was already broken. That night, after everyone left, I tried to talk to Claire about it. She brushed it aside with a laugh. "Oh, Ryan, don't be so sensitive. It was just a joke." A joke. The word echoed in my mind long after she'd gone to sleep. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, realizing how small I'd begun to feel in my own home. It wasn't the first time she'd turned me into the punchline, just the first time I didn't play along. The days that followed felt colder. Claire was busier, late nights, new projects, excuses I didn't bother questioning. I started watching instead of asking. One afternoon, I stopped by her office to surprise her. She wasn't there. Emily was. She seemed a little startled to see me and said Claire had left early, mentioned errands. We chatted briefly, polite, impersonal, until I turned to leave. Then she said quietly, "I felt bad about that joke the other night. You didn't deserve that." I shrugged it off. I'm used to being her punchline. She looked at me for a long moment. "You shouldn't be." Her words stayed with me. Maybe it was her sincerity, or the fact that she didn't excuse Claire's behavior. Maybe it was just the first time in a while that someone spoke to me with real kindness. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I talked more. It started casually, work topics, hobbies, nothing secret or inappropriate. But she listened, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested in the parts of me Claire no longer saw. Then one evening, while Claire was out with friends, Emily called. Her voice was unsteady. She'd gone through a breakup and didn't want to be alone. I hesitated, then went over. We sat on her balcony as the city glowed beneath us. She talked, I listened, and somewhere between her laughter and her tears, she looked at me and said softly, "You deserve better, Ryan." For the first time in years, I believed her. By dawn, she'd fallen asleep on the couch under a throw blanket. We hadn't crossed any lines, but something between us had quietly shifted. I left before she woke, the morning air cool and unfamiliar on my face. The streets felt different that night, heavier, quieter somehow. When I got home, Claire was in the kitchen, eyes glued to her phone. She glanced up, her face unreadable. "Where were you?" she asked. "Out," I said. "With who?" I hesitated just long enough to make her notice. "A friend." For a brief moment, her confidence faltered, but then that familiar smirk appeared. "Well, I hope she enjoyed your dull little stories," she said. I smiled slightly. She did. That was the first time Claire didn't have a comeback. Her laugh came out thin and uneasy before she turned away, pretending nothing was wrong. But something had changed. We both felt it. In the days that followed, the air between us grew colder. We spoke less, ate at different times, moved through the same house like strangers. I stopped chasing her attention, stopped bending to earn what little respect she offered. And in that stillness, the balance between us shifted. A week later, Claire threw another of her little gatherings. Same faces, same laughter that never reached anyone's eyes. I stayed mostly quiet, sipping my drink, detached from it all. Then someone joked, "So, Ryan, your wife offering you up again tonight?" The room erupted in laughter. This time, I didn't join in. I set my glass down. "Actually," I said, "I accepted." Emily didn't seem to mind. The laughter died instantly. Claire's smile froze, her face drained of color. No one knew where to look. I stood, placed my drink in the sink, and left the room without another word. Behind me, her voice tried to recover the mood, but the laughter that followed was brittle and false. That night, I packed a bag. Not out of spite or drama, just because the joke had finally gone too far. When you're always made the punchline, eventually you stop showing up for the show. I stayed in a hotel for a few days, uncertain of what came next. Emily called after hearing what happened. "You actually left?" she asked softly. "I did." A pause. Then she said, "Good." Weeks passed. Claire called, texted, even appeared at my office once. She said she'd only been joking, that I'd overreacted, that she missed me. But her words sounded practiced, hollow. She wasn't sorry for how she'd treated me, only for losing control of the story. Meanwhile, Emily and I began seeing each other more often. With the weight of guilt gone, something genuine started to form between us. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about peace, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Months later, I ran into one of Claire's old co-workers at a cafe. She looked surprised to see me. "She still talks about that night sometimes," she said. "Says that's when she realized she'd gone too far." I nodded, smiled politely, and left. Driving home, I thought about how it had all started, with laughter. Loud, careless laughter that hid small cruelties. Every joke, I realized, carries a sliver of truth. Claire's jokes revealed her contempt. Mine masked my endurance. When she joked about giving me away, she didn't know she already had, bit by bit, to indifference, to disrespect, to a version of me that had forgotten his own worth. When I finally walked out, it wasn't about Emily, or payback. It was about choosing silence over ridicule, self-respect over comfort. Sometimes, the quietest departures leave the deepest echo.